Morning, everybody. It's lovely to have you all here this morning as we work through our final agenda for 2024, Tuesday the 17th. So I warmly welcome you all here to this meeting. Work through our typical procedures as we enter this meeting. We have health and safety. We're all very familiar with this building, but should we need to exit, it's out the door that we entered, or to my left, and the assembly point is noted over by St John's. I have received no apologies for today's meeting, but you've all previously granted leave of absence for Councillor Davies and Councillor Hislop. So we don't need to move and second those, do we? So that's all good. You're all up to speed on that one. Thank you. Our affirmation for today, as always, we pledge that we will faithfully and impartially use our skills, wisdom and judgment throughout the discussions and deliberations ahead of us today in order to make responsible and appropriate decisions for the benefit of the Hiranui district at large. We commit individually and as council to the principles of integrity and respect, and to upholding the values that we believe distinguish and enrich our district. Thank you. Councillors, in regard to the agenda that you have in front of you today, is there any conflict of interest that you need to declare? No, that's great, thank you. Graham, as always, we have a recording device and we're being live streamed and recorded. Thank you. I'm not aware of any urgent business nor separately circulated information, so that's correct. Yep, thank you. So councillors, we've got 2 lots of minutes to get through today. The council meeting on Tuesday the 26th of November. I know that you will have all read that and perhaps identified any matters of accuracy, but we'll just do a quick page turn in that regard. Page 6 and 7, page 8 and 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and page 20. Thanks, Karen.
Yes, Madam Mayor, just on page 19, the top section there, it says Councillor Strong noted that Audit and Risk Committee agreed to consider future governance arrangements for the Tourism Board. If I could just ask for that to be corrected, I noted that the Hiranui Tourism Board agreed to consider future government arrangements. If we could just change that. Just for clarification, the audit and risk, I did mention that, but I mentioned it in the context of taking a paper to the audit and risk and then reporting it back to the Tourism Board, and as a result of that, the Tourism Board agreed to consider. Right. So if we could just make that change.
Yeah, I think correct in the process that's gone through and identifying that, so thank Karen for that. Any other matters of correction? Okay, so with that a minor amendment, or if someone would like to move that we receive those minutes as a true and accurate record, Karen and Fiona moved and seconded. All in agreement to that, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? That's carried, thank you. So likewise, we'll just consider if there are any matters arising, any questions that you might have on those pages as well. So 6 and 7. And page 8 and 9, 10 and 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. No matters arising in the 7 minutes. Councillors. That will take us on to page 21, which was our next council meeting, dated the 3rd of December, and just likewise if we work through for matters of accuracy, page 21, 22, 23, so I'd just like when we talked, there was discussion on page 23, and it started in that middle paragraph. Mayor Black emphasised the Canterbury water management strategy is the current focus. I think that for better clarity there, I think Mayor, the Canterbury water management strategy continues to be a purposeful document with the principles, and the mayoral forum supported the continuum. So it's not the current focus, it's actually the principles of the CWMS that are still, yeah. So I just think that clarifies that a little bit. Thank you. If you're all comfortable with that, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, and yeah, page 26. So is there no other matters of accuracy? Anyone who's present at that meeting, happy to move. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Pauline, that we received those minutes as a true and accurate record. All in agreement to that, please say aye. Aye. Those against, that's carried. Thank you. Is there any matters arising from that set of minutes? No presentation meeting, so it's information. Really. Thank you. Okay, so councillors, we'll move on and look at our known forward work program. It is looking somewhat slim heading into the year, but I suspect that will get populated early in the new year once executive team or staff have a better understanding what's going to be happening. Okay.
And Mayor, if I may just, councillors will start receiving a flood of calendar appointments. So, a couple of days and early into next year.
Right. Okay. So those meetings, I'll come to you in a minute, Karen. Those meetings will be populate your up to the elections is the date that we set. Yeah, because they've been to all our communities. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Graham. Karen, just
a small note. I have a feeling that our first meeting for the year might be the 28th of January, not the 1st.
Yes, it is. Good spotting.
Thank you, Mary. Yes, that's correct.
Well done. Excellent. Okay, and that'll roll around quick enough, won't it? Thank you. So in front of you, I've got Mayor's diary. Just take that as read, and the Queen Mary Historic Reserve. I don't know whether there's any progress on that and what we're going into. Anything to want to add?
No, I mean, I think some of the new councillors that are part of the polls committee probably have been in the building more recently than myself. So maybe one of you might want to speak to what you saw.
Yeah. That's great. Yes, I'll do that. I'll canvass the so the Hanmer Springs Thermal Pools Committee had their meeting, I'm not sure when, and the Tourism Board met in the afternoon on the same day in Hanmer Springs. The Thermal Pools and Spa Committee had an opportunity to have a look through the Soldiers Block and see the progress that has been made. It's quite phenomenal, but Gary, you will have seen it for the first time. Any comments that you would like to make?
Just outstanding.
Just outstanding?
Outstanding is the only word I've got. And it wraps it right up.
Yeah.
Stunning job being done.
Yeah, thanks, Gary.
Yeah, it's coming together well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next stage is going to be.
Quite magnificent though, I think. Good words, thanks, Gary. So yeah, no, it's progressing really well. I think, of course, working towards Anzac Day next year, that continues to be the focus for the grand opening of that building. So, you know, we've got to be grateful for all of the people that are making that significant contribution to get, you know, that stage one done, you know, and yeah, I think keep excitement. Thank you. So would someone happy to move that we accept the Mayor's diary and the working group status? Someone like to put the hand up on that one? Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Fiona. All in agreement to that, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, that's carried. Thank you. Okay, so councillors, that we have two decision items for today. Our first one is on page 31 of your agenda, and Scott is zooming in for this to present this. Welcome, Scott. It's nice to see you, and it's hard luck that you're not in the room with us today, but you know, we've grown up significantly, haven't we, in being able to use the technology to our benefit. But in front of us, we've got the dangerous, unsanitary and affected building policy, which you've been part of the review of that. Do you want to just take us through that, and we'll see if there's any questions, and then we'll work that from there.
Certainly, thank you. Yes, taking the report as read as always. Yes, the dangerous and unsanitary and affected buildings policy was overdue for review, and it is. We've had some consultation prior to the writing of the policy with the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment, their building arm, and incorporated some of their changes. And then this policy was presented to the 15th of October Strategy and Community Committee, at which point went out for consultation under section 83, of the Local Government Act, with that consultation period from the 21st of October to the 25th of November. And during that time, 2 submissions were received from Heritage New Zealand and from Te Whatu Ora, Health New Zealand. Their feedback has been incorporated into the policy as much as possible. We've tried to both incorporate those changes, but not wanting to make the policy replicate other pieces of legislation. And certainly the policy, when applied, is to be read in conjunction with the Health Act and the Building Act as well, of course. We have, so in response to that feedback, it has been both the heritage sections and the health related sections that have been changed, and those changes are tracked in the copy of the policy there. Over to the committee for any questions.
Lovely, thank you, Scott, for that. And it's good to know that when we receive those submissions that it made sense to have that incorporated and updated into that policy setting. But we'll see if there's some questions to clarify that position, and then we'll take it from there. So, councillors, is there any questions to clarify or comment that you would like to make in the proposed policy that we have in front of us on page 46? Oh, Scott, I'm not sure. I suspect that the lack of questions means that there is general satisfaction with what you are proposing, and that the policy that incorporating from Te Whatu Ora and the Heritage New Zealand makes sense to put into that policy. Hang on, I've got a late comer to the party. I've got Ross.
Yeah. Apologies for lateness, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I knew I had something written down, and I'm saying I just wanted clarification, Scott, on that paragraph there. It's in red there. Owners of any site associated with pre-1900 human activity should be aware that. So how is that? How does that work out in practice?
Are you asking how that applies in reality? Scott,
how do you know if there's pre-1900? Is this a blanket thing that's you're gonna have to pay for someone to do a report because you don't know, or I'd just like to have that clarified. Is this a can of worms?
Yeah, fair enough.
No, it's very good.
Did you get the context of Ross's question?
Yes, I did. Yes. No, and it's not necessarily wanting to say a full assessment is required. It's more just putting it on the property owner's radar that if anything is pre-1900, then needs to be discussed with Heritage New Zealand, or that needs to be factored in when applying the policy. So not necessarily saying that a full heritage assessment is required or an archaeological authority is required, but ensuring that that's in front of people's mind when administering the policy. And it's also intentionally referring to, it's not just the buildings. So obviously it's a dangerous and unsanitary buildings policy, but the heritage, the archaeological matters apply to the ground underneath. And it cannot be until you're actually digging around in the soil that you may find some pre-1900 activity.
Yeah, it does, because this is new, this bit in red here, is it?
Yeah.
Correct.
And I guess I'm just thinking in a practical way, I'm putting a post hole in, digging a post hole, I find something that's an old bit of wire that's pre 1900, as will be in a lot of situations. I mean, where's the line drawn? I'm just concerned that everyone will have to get a report done, because we're going back 124 years. There will be a certain amount of activity will have happened in certain places, and I just don't want to throw up a spanner in the works for people who are just doing normal stuff. Probably on my own here, but I just read that and I just thought, is this ambiguous? It's like, who decides? Well, are you going to start? Because I've had this before. Then everybody has to have it done. And that is my concern.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if this is a policy setting, that will be the guidance tool that will be used for pre-1900 human activity. So,
Yes, and I would anticipate that these would be structures that owners would be already aware are older. It's not intended that, like you say, you happen to be putting a post in the ground and you find a piece of wire. This would be on buildings that people would already be aware of have heritage value.
Yeah, and I understand that, and that's fine, but it's the ones that fall outside that you're unsure of, and all of a sudden you have to pay to get a report done. And that's, I guess, where's that line drawn? And
I mean, I guess I'm just thinking, as you're speaking, Ross, thinking about the historic hotel at Hiranui, and that has historic value. I mean, that's pre-1900, so any excavation or the building is already identified as I'll come to the building as well. Yeah, so but you're worried about anything that's not already known or not hasn't already been captured by some of that status.
correct.
Yeah. Can I go to Pauline question, then I'll come to you, Hamish. Pauline.
Yeah, look, this crossed my mind actually when I was reading this. However, it's just noted there, and it's actually a requirement under the Heritage Trust Act 2014. So it's not actually, I mean, we can take the statement out, but it's still a requirement under that act. So yeah.
I think.
Pauline's covered
Perfect. Well done. Yeah. Gary?
I was just going to, I guess, further to Ross's comments, Madam Mayor, from a practical viewpoint, and forgive the practical example I'm going to use, but Amberley House down the road here, built in 1896. It's not a historic registered building such as the Hiranui Hotel. It had extensive renovations and rebuild, and major rebuild back in whenever it was, the year 2000. The current owners of that house today could still be doing stuff in that house of a minor nature, drilling into the triple brick wall to put a washing line attachment onto the wall. I'm making this up as I sit here. Does that still require them to get Heritage New Zealand approval? I'm using the words there down to an extremely practical local example in an everyday sense. I'm just,
I can't answer that.
I'm not arguing it, but I'm just raising the.
Yeah. And I guess coming back to, I mean, what you're speaking about is validated in a practical community position, but what Pauline has suggested is actually it's there anyway,
It's
you
there
know,
anyway.
it's there anyway, so by taking it out of our policy, actually, you know, this is not a double protection, but it's a protection that our staff will work to, I mean, they're obviously not gonna know about your type of
Exactly, 'cause I'm
example.
talking
Yeah.
unconsented activity.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
But there's a
but-
wider communication
Yeah.
maybe that needs to make people aware of
Yeah,
this somehow, I don't
Yeah.
know.
so I guess that, oh,
No, I was just gonna give an example of our own house. I think it was built in 1890, some age, and it's still part of the old house up inside the
Yeah.
house, you know?
Yeah.
So I suppose it's when you get a building consent to the building department come along and go, hey, oh, no, you've got to get a report. Where's the onus go to? Because, you know, if you have to get a consent to
Can you
do
just-
something, that brings in
Yeah.
these policies, doesn't
so
it?
if we understand better, you know, taking Pauline's comment that actually it's there, it's folded in, and now it's going to be inserted into our policy.
Yep.
What will be the practical application that our staff will, because this is going to be their guidance tool, so,
The onus is on the landowner, not on the council,
Yeah.
number one. Number two, if we know that the building, and we generally don't, but if we did know the building was pre-1900, we bring it to their attention.
and,
And it's up to the
And up-
landowner, the
and up
onus is
to
on the
them.
landowner.
yeah, okay. So this is about putting some protections in place when, I mean, some buildings will clearly be wanting to respect that historical, that heritage more than others, you know, so I guess this is helping people to clarify their position and their understanding. So I think we're heading in the right direction. I'm gonna go to Robbie and then Vanessa and then come to Karen, thank you, and then we'll see where we're heading.
And just a slightly different tack, how does this one work in, it's pretty clear with a house, an old house, that sort of thing, but in a situation like up north where there's big floods and that sort of thing, how does this one work in with emergencies, or when does this, what triggers this one, or I just wondered how that works, where you have an event that might make an area insanitary.
So you're talking about the dangerous and sanitary part of the policy?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So can you provide us some guidance on that?
Yes, again. We have a mechanism through the Building Act, called Section 124 notice, Section 124 the Building Notice Act, where we can attach a notice to the building if it's dangerous or unsanitary, and we can prohibit people entering the building, living in the building, entering part of the building, etc., etc., etc. So there's a range of things that we can do, and we've done these things before in the face of you know, events. We've applied Section 124 notices to buildings.
Yeah, and that was, I mean, post earthquake when houses were stickered, but actually it was the catch-all was the Section 124. So, yeah,
It's two completely separate processes.
Yeah.
One is a rapid assessment process post earthquake, where we go around and do rapid assessments. That's a stickering process. It's to let people know that there's an issue with the building, just really quickly, without doing a full assessment, engineering assessment of it. The Section 124 notice is actually the legally binding thing that says you cannot enter and you're liable for prosecution, etc., etc., etc. So one's a warning system, quite a rapid flagging system, rapid engineering assessment, and the other one is the actual legal backup, and that's the Section 124 notice.
okay, does that give you a bit of clarity, Robbie? Perfect, thank you, and that's been applied, you know, even within our existing policy. Vanessa?
That's fine, I think.
Oh, thank you, Karen.
There's just a point I wondered, it seems to relate to heritage sites that are sort of built and non-built. And I just wanted to check, if I bought a block of land and it had, for instance, a Urupa Māori burial site on it, would that be on my title? Like how would I know about that?
Thank you.
So it's not going to be on your title. It might be on your property file,
Yeah.
but it will depend whether we know about it or not. And so we only can put things that we know about on property files, we don't record the unknown. But if you were to find something that you think that's pre-1900 on your site, when you go and dig a fence post hole, then potentially it's best to get it checked out. Now, a bit of wire, it's pretty hard to say that bit of wire is pre-1900. And if it's been in the ground that long, it's probably just a pretty remote fragment. But if you were to come across some sort of rubbish pit, either pre-European or early European rubbish pit, then that's probably of great interest. And you know, you should notify Heritage New Zealand, or at the very least not disturb it.
Yeah, and it comes back to Paul's comment initially that actually that would capture that as well, but it's about the known or the unknown, I guess, that you're raising as well.
And so that the onus is still on the landowner if they discover something like that to kind of pause and liaise with, in this case, Heritage New Zealand, actually.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Just the insanitary building, it's quite a hard one, isn't it? Because if it's vermin there, they've got to be affecting the neighbours or the, it's not like, you go in there and you think the house is messy, in fact it is.
And I guess that's already been, we've already had that. This is just a review of our existing policy as well, so yeah. Do you want to make a comment on that? How we manage that?
Quite often sanitary buildings are not connected to sanitary systems. So they're not connected to a sewer septic system. They don't have running water. Those sorts of things are generally the triggers for being insanitary, although you know, a real overload could be considered insanitary.
Look, I think it's been a really good conversation, but equally it's a review, and I think that what we've done is we've just brought in, tied together a couple of other things that are already in place so that they're all in one place when somebody looks at this policy. So it's been a good conversation. I think people have got more understanding, but I'm prepared to move the officer's recommendation.
That's great.
The amendments to the policy.
Yep, thank you, Fiona. So that covers the consideration. I know that you will have read those submissions and support their insertion into the policy, and that we agree to adopt. So thank you, Fiona. If there's no further discussion, I'll go seek a seconder.
Yeah, happy to second that. And can I just say, it was really good that those submission notes had already been inclusive in the policy changes. So thank you for that, Scott and your team.
That's great. Thanks. So we have a mover and a seconder for the dangerous and sanitary and effective building policy. All in agreement with that, please say aye. Aye. Those against? That motion's carried. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate your work. I know we've got Catherine sitting down the back here as well, so I know that she's probably going to be one of the ones that will be in this some of this policy in place. So thanks very much for all of your work, and I do hope you get well and have a lovely Christmas to you and yours. So thank you both. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you. So councillors, that takes us on to our next decision item, which is 5.2, which is our fraud and corruption policy. Jason and his team have been working through this, and it's been across a couple of, been through ordinary risk. So if you just want to take us through that, Jason, and see if there's questions from the wider council as we look at reviewing this policy for our council.
Okay, thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, the fraud and corruption policy, best practices to review it at least annually. It was last reviewed in July June 2023, and the current policy was adopted by Council in July 23. But since that time, there was just an opportunity to update a piece of legislation that is attached to the fraud and corruption policy, and it relates to the predicting disclosures. Whistleblowers Act, which was updated in 2022. So our previous policy had reference to the 2000 Act. So, but much of the content is still the same. It's just making sure that we've got the relevant updated legislation attached to it. The policy itself is page 53 through, and anything that has changed has been highlighted in yellow. So obviously the tabling of on page 53 has changed, and if it is adopted, your policy will refer to it being adopted. Page 54 hasn't changed. My favourite triangle sitting in there. The page 55, just the component that changes the reference to the new act, and it is centred around the protection of any reporting of fraud to any of the key parties that are receiving the information. There was just a typo that was corrected in the investigation process. And then just on the following page 56, just related procedures, we do always refer to the employee code of conduct, but because elected members are part and parcel of this policy as well, it was suggested and rightly put in the elected members code of conduct attached. And then obviously the appendix, and that is the extract on page 57 from the confidentiality, protecting confidentiality and under the Privacy Act, and also withholding official information, all just encapsulated in that update there.
Right. Thanks, Jason. One of the, I mean, I've read this before as well, but I really like the purpose statement, and it's high standards of behaviour expected of individuals and trusted with public money means, it sets a really good high threshold, and that's exactly what we should be doing. So I think, sometimes it's easy just to think words, but actually there's a strength in that meaning as well. So councillors, you may have some questions around this policy update, and I think we'll explore those now. So thanks, Vince.
Just on page 54 on the second bullet point, it says checks and I don't have.
Yeah, true.
I read it.
That component, the bank draft or any other financial document will still be relevant. But,
say that again, Vince.
Do they still have bank drafts?
There will be bank transfers that we do make. But that is. I mean, it's done braces if it's here, but obviously checks aren't a thing. My chagrin, because going back in my fraud training many years ago, handwriting analysis was one of the real interesting parts of it, and it's no longer applicable. So, but yeah, I'll just take out the word check. From that.
Thank you. Robbie, do you have a question?
Yeah, just one that caught my eye, page 57, 17 and 2. About receiver need not keep disclosures identity confidential if, and there's a number of reasons. The one I'm interested in that doesn't seem to be there is false accusation.
Well, this is directly from the Act. It would be an issue for the legislation in that respect. I suppose if somebody did make reported something that they felt was suspicious, and there was no we undertake a level of investigation to substantiate whether something was occurred. We shouldn't discourage people from reporting things, even if it turns out to be false. If it's maliciously false, it might be a different category. But yeah, the legislation is not sort of designed to approach that.
So just to be clear that all of the wording on page 7 is taken out of the act, so we can't change it. The act, we can't change anything, we can't alter any of the words because it's just imposed from the act, word for word. Yeah, is that correct?
Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, it's good to kind of like tease it out, eh? You happy with that, Robbie?
Yes, indeed.
Perfect. Do we have any other questions from councillors? Satisfied with the, thank you, Fiona.
Happy to move. I mean, I think we had a good discussion around this at audit and risk as well, and the understanding and actually it's good to have a read through and understand, encouraging people to report things that are unusual, because that's often how we get onto something. It's not. This is a good policy to have in place so that people can feel secure reporting.
Yeah.
So I move, what was it? That we adopt the updated full.
With that minor amendment.
Yes. Making out checks.
Robbie, you're happy to second that? Yeah, thank you. There's no further questions. I think it's been well explored and revised, and we've come to a position and we understand the critical importance of this. So I'll have a mover and a seconder for our fraud and corruption policy. So all in agreement to that, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, that motion's carried. Thank you. Wonderful, thank you. Jason, you might as well start the table. Yeah, you've got all your paperwork with you, you're onto it. Yeah. So Jason, we have a little bit more time this meeting to go through your pages, because I did feel last time that, you know, we didn't run out of time ahead of our busy November meeting to fully, you know, work through the financials as we should do. So so happy to take what you need and questions from councillors as we step ourselves through that. So thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. The November financials were cobbled together relatively quickly, with them sort of in the middle of the course and stuff like that, and because this meeting is a couple of weeks earlier than the normal, there has been sort of a couple of assumptions made, bringing up, applying some of the financial statements, but they should be pretty good. So I suppose we'll just go through each component. The first component is the financial report itself, and it starts on page 61. So the overall, we're sitting on our revenue for the first 5 months of the year is about $1.5 million greater than what we had budgeted for, and our expenditure is close to what we had predicted. So at the moment, we are reporting a $2.1 million deficit. Our budget was for a $4.5 million deficit for the first 5 months. So the difference is about 1.6 million. Capital expenditure wise, at the end of November, we're budgeting to spend about 6.7 million. We've actually spent 7.3 million, and the further analysis of the capital expenditure in the second appendix. But we'll, I suppose, just go through page by page. And focusing on the year to date, but issues relating to November and itself. But the year to date, page 62, total income is down by about 200,000. But we do part of that is that we budget to receive about a 12th of all of our rates every month. But for Ashley Water Supply, there's a chunk that we receive from WIMAC. We only receive it every 3 months, and that has been received in early December for 464,000. Robbie.
Yes, sorry to jump a bit late. Right at the start, the page 59, with the official cash rate, probably move around again. Our internal and external rates, how do we rationalise, how often do we have to adjust them? We have to change when they do a review, and how do we work that to keep it so it's not like a yo-yo?
Right, well, we'll do the treasury stuff as a separate, but specifically, our policy is to reset our internal interest rates every 3 months. So it's based on, it's not in this, but it's certainly at the end of December, we'll do that again, and it's based on our external rate, weighted average cost of funds, which is there, plus 8%. And then for the thermal pools, it's plus 2%. And our internal interest paid to those communities or activities that hold funds is set at the same rate that we can invest, saying the Westpac, advertised Westpac term deposit rate for 3 months. That's our internal interest rate paid.
Thank you.
That's specifically done, and this changed over a COVID period, that with the interest rates dropping dramatically, we needed to make sure that the communities do benefit from those dropping interest rates. And so we went from doing an annual setting of the internal interest rate to three monthly. Okay, back on page 62, yeah, just the rest of water there. Made a comment about the interest rates there, that we've got funds on hand that we, in the form of the development contributions funds, that is earning more interest than we had budgeted for, but conversely, our internal interest on the debt is higher than what we had budgeted for, and that's a combination of the underlying debt being higher than what we had allowed for in the budget, and also for the period of time the interest rate is higher than the average that we assumed for the full year. And as the rates are coming down, that internal interest rate will come down as well.
So our internal debt is 4.5 million higher than we budgeted, which is quite a lot of money.
Yeah, well, what we had allowed for was that the development contributions fund would offset that, but we've still got those separated out separately. So there's one earning interest, one paying interest. So there will be a resetting of that through when we get a chance. But also there was, I think we had spent a little bit more on the Hiranui Basin development than we were predicting as part of the long-term plan. So it was predicting by the end of June this year. So it was slightly higher than what we had allowed for moving forward into the long-term plan.
That's Hiranui number one, not
Hiranui number one.
Yeah, not.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So that'll have to reflect in water charges.
Yeah, that's right, and that's the key, is making sure that we've got accurate forecasts at the end of this year, moving into the annual plan for next year, and making sure that the interest charges are appropriate, and that is reflected in what we'll need to set as a rate.
We've got to watch it, doesn't get away on us.
Yeah, page 63, it's just the transition phase still continues until we made gotten to a point, but only because we have received funding go to the next stage, and so that's just reflecting on page 63. Page 64 is Sewer Ridge, and both overall income and expenditure is largely and capital expenditure, largely what we had predicted in the budget, with a couple of compensating variances in items like sludge management under budget for the first 3 months, first 5 months by 73,000, and also compliance testing is just down on budget.
So it's another couple of million higher as well.
Yeah, and largely for the same reasons that we've got chunk of development contributions that is earning interest, and which will normally go to offset the offsetting the internal loan, which would have ultimately have an effect on the internal interest. Page 65 is stormwater. Couple of variances there, particularly in the operating or the other direct expenditure, which is largely considered to be timing variances, that some compliance costs, spraying, resultants and the likes likely to occur by the end of the year, but hadn't occurred as we had. 66 is roads and footpaths, and then immediately broken down into page 67 and 68. So page 67 is roading, and yeah, at the moment the key variance is just in capital expenditure, and again that is purely a timing variance in respect to pavement rehabilitation and road metering. We had allowed for a certain amount for the first 5 months. It hadn't been spent, but certainly will be spent by year end. Page 68 is roadside construction, and there's just a few we've got significant amount of district-wide renewals budgeted, but it's likely to be in the second part of the financial year, and also each of the community committees have allowed for some new footpath work, and again it's been budgeted for later in the year. And some of those may not come to fruition, particularly I'm looking at Perenui, an amount of 73,000 sitting in the account, but it may not actually be utilised during the year, and it will just flow through into the next financial year.
I think Fiona's got a question.
Just a clarification. The Waipiro roadside construction, would that show up somewhere?
Yeah, it is as part of the capital expenditure, but there wasn't any capital plan for this year, so it's sort of just been zeroed out.
That's fine. I didn't see Waipiro there, and I know they're not doing any work because they're saving up for a program, but there's nowhere for them to see in this.
But certainly the rates and any interest that account's earning is part of the rates and internal interest received. Page 69 is coastal hazards, and this is primarily the foreshore protection and land beach, and so there is total capital expenditure for that project of 750,000. In the budget, we did allow for 900,000 for the purchase of land. Oh no, sorry, 900,000 for One Beach to do develop new sections for relocation, and that none of that has been spent today. Page 70 is the group summary for public services, and it's broken down into the 6 individual areas. The first being on page 71, services. And the key thing that first 5 months is the level of funding that we've got and Brad and where they provide the analysis there on where they're sitting with those grants.
Thank you.
It's 72 is property. And key variances here are in respect to the Soldiers Block development. So we did carry forward the funding, but we based on our calendarisation of that budget, we're actually ahead of budget. And coupled with that is the fact that we've received about $1 million worth of Better Off funding towards that project that we had budgeted for in previous years, but as because it was a that funding is in arrears rather than advance. Once we've done the sufficient work, we can claim that we've been able to claim that, and so I think we have now received all the funding from the Better Off funding that we can across the board, because the 2.85 million that we had set aside projects for have been all spent and we've received the money. So that related, the money related to 420,000 that we loaned to the Hiranui Community Development Trust for developing houses in Waio, and the other 750,000 was applied to purchase the Queen Mary South Block, and then the remaining amount was applied to the Soldiers Block.
Yeah, so that's all.
Money they couldn't be taken off.
And we actually received all of that now. Yeah, okay. That's good, thank you.
So they're the key variances here. Page 73 is reserves, and just the key variances are highlighted. Just the amount of camping ground money we've received is just under budget in a couple of the areas, and cemetery income is just down on budget also, and capital expenditure is reported earlier. The sealing of the entrance way at Hammond Springs was a project that we had in year 2 been brought forward.
Sorry, Vince.
Well, the Embley Beach Reserve and the Harden Reserve, are they funding those under budgets by debt or what?
Well, essentially, all of the income isn't as high, so they're.
Do they have a credit balance?
Yeah. So for Embley Beach, there is essentially it is any shortfall goes back to the amenities account. For Harden, it is they've got their own their own funds, so if they don't receive as much income, the level at the end of the year will be lower.
Thank you, Pauline.
Thanks. I was just going to note in regards to that item there that there is some proactive work being done in regards to the Kiwi Camp system at both of those locations to hopefully make the system easier for users, and hopefully that will have an impact on that, on the income. I think there's about a 3 months, sort of 10 to 12 week period of time for Kiwi Camp to address some of those concerns.
Thanks, Pauline.
Okay,
Thank you.
page 74 is emergency services, and just a variance here in the respect to some of the training costs and the installation of the broadband, satellite broadband system, which I think is occurring now. So that was budgeted in the 5 months, but not spent, but is occurring now. So that is purely a timing variance. Page 75 is the library, and library for this year, we are receiving development contributions towards the next major upgrade of the library, and PCs at the moment are just a little bit behind what we had budgeted for.
So that's the Amberley Library, just for clarity.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That was for the expansion that
Yeah.
we were timing for about
Year
year
10.
10 of the long-term plan. Okay, page 76 is waste minimisation. The transfer station charges are ahead of budget, as well as receiving a higher amount of waste levy than we had predicted for this time of the year. And then expenditure wise, we're just down a little bit on wage costs, and the other variances there are in capital expenditure, where there's been some unbudgeted work done both in Hammer Springs and Amberley, but for the reasons given.
No, and just a comment really, and I guess on page 76 with the electric gates and the work done there, but they funded it from scrap metal sales, and I just thought that was worth noting, as opposed from it's another thing. So it was very proactive in finding ways to save ratepayer money.
And it's with the eco-friendly recycle sort of philosophy, doesn't it really? But yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, just a question of clarification of Jason. So with regard to that, the funds are arising from scrap metal sales.
Yep.
Where do they sit within the accounts? Are they sitting in there in revenue in transfer station charges, or where do they sit?
That's where they would sit.
They'll be sitting in there. Okay.
So they're obviously higher, so some of that will be the scrap metal sales. We could try and separate that out.
No. I just wanted to, they sit with us, not with the contractor. The other question, not statement, I guess, just on that is that our waste section is a little profit centre in its own right at this stage. I mean, seriously, of all of our departments, we budgeted for it year to date to be, at a variance of negative 87,000. We expected that the costs might be slightly higher than the revenue. It's actually $215,000 ahead. It's a little profit centre.
Yeah.
in 5 months.
Yeah. That's right.
It is had $800,000 of rates money supporting it.
Oh, it's including the rating section. No, I accept that. Yes, including the rating revenue. Yeah.
But I guess what you're highlighting is the fact that there is opportunities there within that work stream that, you can bring to your advantage on top of it. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Thanks, Gary. Yep, we'll move on.
Right, page 77 is the group activity for regulatory services, and it's broken down into page 78 and 79, the first being page 78, resource management and planning. Just a couple of variances there. We've got, it's been less on wages and also less on external policy development during the first 5 months. And then page 79 is compliance and other regulatory functions. So for the key variances here for the year to date, building control income is actually up by 76,000 on budget. But we do have some additional wage costs associated to achieve that. And then other, we've got additional cost of insurance, and this is, we've got the professional indemnity insurance. A chunk of it relates to buildings, so they've at the moment been allocated a portion of that. But I need to have a bit of a think on how we do allocate that additional 297,000 or 293,000 we spent on indemnity insurance than we have resolved at the stage.
Robbie and then Gary.
Yeah, the insurance thing, no surprise, but I was wondering just roughly what percent increase is that? How much of a jump was that?
You need to view it in two parts. Your overall insurance went up by about 30%.
Yeah.
But the component that's caused us the most amount of grief is the professional indemnity part of it, where we, at previous insurers through the London market, pulled out in late May, and we were scrambling to get some appropriate cover. We got cover, so it's absolutely appropriate, but and it cost 293,000 as opposed to what it was previously. It was significantly less than that. But it is a sector issue that we've all been trying to deal with.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just in relation to that, the building income being, as you said, 76,000 over budget, just as a mention, it's worthwhile for all councillors, when you've got 4 or 5 spare minutes, drive into the clearing and go all the way through and look at the number of new houses that are underway there. So you're just driving on Beach Road, you don't see it.
No.
You see a couple of houses on facing Beach Road. But when you go in there, it is actually quite a surprise, the number of houses under construction in there right now.
Yeah.
A good sign, given the economy and all that.
I think you're right. Not quite recently, but in the last week or so, but it's interesting.
Well, there's more. And the streets in there are lined with tradie vehicles. You know, there's tradies working flat out through there. It's quite encouraging.
Thanks for
and
bringing that.
just add that to you, because I agree that, you know, it's unseen, but the other one that's unseen is the retirement village. We've seen consents coming through all the time, and you know, it's reasonably private in there, so you don't
get to see
it, but they're continuing flat out to build there as well.
Thank you for actually reflecting that, because whilst we're looking at and thinking about it from a numbers perspective, actually the story behind that is encouraging for Amberley and the Hiranui district. So, you know, it's good to bring this into the reality. So thank you. Thanks, Jason.
Page 80 is the thermal pools and spa. So for November, there's been a wee bit of a turnaround, not enough to recover from the first 4 months, but for November, the pools recorded a surplus of 65,000. They were predicting a deficit for that month of 48,500. So it's been $114,000 turnaround, but at present time, you know, the total surplus is 229,000. We're predicting for the first 5 months, 625,000. So we're still just under $400,000 lower than we had predicted. Certainly, from now to the end of January is the absolute key time. So we'll have a better view at the end of January how the performance has been.
And I think the pools have been doing a bit of activity to encourage pool passes, or, you know, it's that sort of seasonality of Christmas giving, and, you know, they've done a wee bit of activity around that.
You want me to comment?
Yeah, that'd be great, thank you.
Just again, for all councillors coming out of the, I guess, the Hammer Springs Management Committee that Vince and Tom and Murray and myself attend, the financial performance of the pools, or the operating performance, is now a major focus. You know, and we raised that as councillors, I guess, starting right from the beginning of the financial year. It certainly is now dominating the thinking around that table and the focus. I guess the jury's still out where it will finish up for the full financial year, but they're very much aware of it. There's a lot of discussion that takes place around cost management and areas of saving that they are achieving on an ongoing basis. So they're focused on it. I think the key issue will be to look at the numbers at the end of February and see where it sits, because they've got a lot of work to do to get that 400,000 back.
And I think what you're talking about is actually CapEx as well as OpEx.
Yes,
you know,
yeah,
so
that's
there
right,
is,
yeah.
there is a strong focus on that. So I think that you need to take a sense of comfort that you know, it's in that line of sight. So yeah, we hope, of course, we're conscious of the whole economy and the discretionary spend of communities and people that live within those communities. So, but yeah, that's great. Thanks for that update, Jason. I'll ask you to carry on.
Okay, page 81 is the group activity for governance and corporate. Down into governance on page 82, and the key areas there is that we did have a by-election for Canada Springs that we needed to fund. So we have an overspend due to that. Page 83.
What triggered that overspend? Just more expensive to run a.
We did, because
we actually
don't
hadn't
have the
budget.
budget for by-elections.
Yeah.
And it was like
Richard
yes.
Richard Capper and Stacey Ingles came into that role. So you're saying that the cost of that by-election was $8,000 in total, or was it more than that?
I think it was more than that. I think it would have been about $8,000 because it was an item we didn't have a budget for at all.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay, page 83 is Treasury, and the key variance is sitting there. Internal interest received and internal interest paid, centered around the level of internal debt. Our external interest paid for the 5 months is just slightly higher than what we budgeted for, but again, that will be a reflection of the fact that average interest rate that we've allowed for the whole year is lower than what we've been currently paying, but as you'll see, it's been coming down. We received a little bit of external interest from when we've had spare cash, because the way our debt runs, we can't sort of just pay it off. So any spare cash, particularly when we receive rate money, receive a bulk of that in 1 month, so we hold on to it and utilise it to meet cash flow requirements for the remaining couple of months. So put that on call, and it's earning some interest, unbudgeted interest. Also rate penalties for the 5 months are over budget by 54,000.
Moving.
Page 84, the key variance here is just in respect to the unbudgeted ERP implementation. So council a couple of months ago agreed to bring some IT budget forward to make that happen. So there will be a variance for this year, because we're going to spend more than what we had budgeted overall, but taking funding from year 2 and year 3 to
Yeah, that's right. That was we should see some savings in some other parts where, yeah, which will-
savings in future years.
correct, yeah.
So certainly when we're doing a forecast for the for the annual plan.
Yeah.
The cost of the ERP implementation will be allowed for in the forecast. And they will be different to what we've allowed for in the budget, but there will be corresponding savings elsewhere.
And, I mean, it's important that we just keep sort of line of sight on that, so, you know, we, can sort of have a measurable understanding of our government's decision around that implementation. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, and the final page in the financial report is 85, and it's just the earthquake recovery, and so it largely sits on budget with those key items.
Right.
The next section of the financial report is a capital expenditure report on pages 86 through to 89. So that just breaks down our capital expenditure, overall capital expenditure of 7.3 million on the page 61, down into the individual projects. So you can at your will have a look at individual projects and measure them against what we allowed from the budget.
Yep, and if councillors haven't come with questions, I mean, as always, if you have a question comes from us when you're speculating over these reports in the next day or two. Yeah, thank you.
Right.
I think we'll finish this out and then we'll break for morning tea. But we can do the treasury,
we'll do all that.
We'll do all that now. I think
Okay.
Jason, I'm sure we can get through that for you.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, page 1991 is our rate arrears report, and as at the end of November, our total rates owed was just over 2 million. Same point 12 months ago was 2.15 million, so it's about a 5.3% decrease at the same point last year. In that, that's the processes that we've gone through to try and recover rates. Just on page 59, just a bit more context around the movements and rates, and particularly the amount at the end of November that related to the before June 2023, and then the amount of rates still owing from the 23-24 year. Some data on that. And PE was a conversation about some rates that I can give you. Okay, and the Treasury dashboard has been provided. The key points to note, which I've got on page 59 of the covering report. So at the end of November, we still had 71 million of debt, 61 million of long-term debt, and 10 million in short-term debt. Just yesterday, we pulled down another $6 million worth of term debt to meet our cash flow requirements over the next couple of months. And as had been allowed for, because we were looking at having a end of year debt of 86 million, so we'll be sitting on 77 million at the end of December. Our liquidity ratio has improved a little bit, but I'm still in discussions, or need to reconnect with the bank to extend our flexible facility we have, because our liquidity ratio requires us to have 10% extra for things that emergency. So to do that, we need to have at least 10% of their overall debt in a flexible facility that we can call on when required. So at the moment, we've only got $7 million flexible facilities with Westpac, and that is less than 10% of their total debt. So unless I've got some money squirreled away in a term deposit or a call account, I'm going to miss that, that liquidity requirement. Of significant note, and it sort of almost hidden away on page 94 there, that the right top box there, the second to last item there, the all up weighted off average cost of funds, including margin, has dropped to 4.63%. It was at 4.78% at the end of October, and so that is what it costs council to hold debt, and there is a significant amount. There's a portion of short-term debt there, so we are receiving the benefit of the 90-day bank bill rate coming down. The other points to note, the official cash rate is discussed at the last meeting, did reduce by 50 basis points down to 4.25%, and the next review is next year. The 90-day bank bill rate set at 4.36% at the end of November. And last week when I wrote the report, it had dropped down to 4.3%. So that will, as we move through this month, will reflect in our average rate of average cost of funds. The page 96 is a split of the debt that we do have. I do note some trepidation that the $3 million that I took out in September 2020 at a rate of 0.88% is rapidly coming to maturity. So and then the interest rate swaps on page 97, and coupled with taking up this week, we haven't entered into a new swap, but we have allowed for another swap to make sure that we meet our minimum balance fixed rate. And then the graph on page 98, just with the official cash rate dipping significantly and the 90-day bank bill rate coming down, that we're actually, our average cost of funds is higher than both of them for the first time for a number of, for a long period. And it was just a sharp decrease that it just takes a little bit for our rates to catch up to them, because they are generally term debt is repriced every 3 months, so it will take a full 3 months before they start applying that.
Well, thanks, Jason. I think we've got hands up from Vanessa and Robbie.
Through the chair, Jason, two things. One thing's really minor. It's been there for a while. Page 97, your interest rate swap, second from the bottom, ends at 1930. I mean, it's super minor. But
you're absolutely right.
Calculations. And the other thing is that on page 96, the short-term debt under the LGFA, which matures tomorrow, the interest rate 4.9.
Yep.
What interest rate?
Should be at the 90-day bank bill rate is 4.3. It'll be at 4.5 because we charge 20 or either 20 basis points or 25 basis points over the applicable rate at that point. We did that. It took. It's not an ideal time to roll it over, but we did decide that 2 months ago when we needed to roll over again, because there was the expectation that the rates would come down, otherwise we would have had that 4.9% all the way through to February.
Worthwhile, thank you.
Cool, thanks Vanessa, and Robbie, I think you had it.
Oh, Jason actually answered it, that, yeah, basically, that's that last quarter lag, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
Then finally, page 99 through to 3 is just the internal debt, and just shows total internal debt. There's just a shade under 69 million. And obviously the key component of that, and I always refer to page 101, we've got the ponds debt of 16 million, 45 million, sewer debt of almost 11 million, and stormwater debt sitting at about 3.3 million.
Righto, councillors, so had a time to have a thorough discussion, I guess, in regard to the financials. So if there's any questions, I guess it's good to be inside policy this month as well, Jason, so that's good. But if there's no further questions, would someone like to move that we receive that information? Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Karen, for seconding that. All in agreement that we receive that information, please say aye. Aye. Those against? The motion's carried. Thank you. Rightio, thanks, Jason. That's much appreciated. Councillors, I think it's now 10 to 11, and we'll break for morning tea and return at 10 past 11, 20 minutes for morning tea, 11:10. Thank you. And then we'll continue with our information reports, looking at item 7.2 through, and then we've got public excluded to follow from that. So thank you. We will adjourn. Items and information items that we need to get through. Graham, this is your paper, is the report on the Lagoon request, and really used to this reporting document, so if you'll just take us through that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, this one was prepared for my colleague Everett while I was away, so I don't think I've mentioned that Everett was picking up a lot of the boiler work now. So that's great. So there's number 2 and 3 have actually been completed just in the last couple of days. So we've really just got the one there. And just that note that the Lagoima calculation 20-day period goes to sleep over the Christmas period. But yeah, we're pretty much on
Yeah, thank you.
Just a question, Madam Mayor, just clarification or of interest. Who is 350 Aotea Road? Is it a company? Is it an organisation? Do you know?
Madam Mayor, it seems to be an organisation. Climate change type things.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions in regard to the Lagoima? Someone would like to move if we receive that information? Thanks, Pauline. Thank you, Karen. All in agreement. That's aye. Against, that's carried. Thank you. Hamish, the monthly performance report. If you would like to take us through that, there again, we've become quite familiar with the reporting structure. So
thanks, Madam Mayor. I'll just focus on November issues for a start. So if we go down to the bottom of the first page, waste volume, once again, the volume remaining steady, but a different recycling. So we're not we're not hitting our target there. Everything else for November was fine, but I just note in the cumulatives, about half, or near the top of the first page, the cumulative for our dry weather overflows for sewage. This has previously been reported at 0, but in actual fact, the auditors now say that a dry weather overflow that's not our fault has to be counted. So we've had one where the pipe was hit by a landowner with an excavator, that's counted as a dry weather overflow in our system. And the other one, a manhole was planted over the top of, caused a dry weather overflow. So the auditors have changed the standard for reporting, or they haven't picked up the way they were reported previously, I'm not sure which. Now requiring us to report any overflow at all. So we just used to report ones recorded by us or our system, but now they're requiring ones that aren't caused by us. So we're now accountable for somebody hitting our infrastructure, causing overflow.
And so the narrative that's been written there just probably helps us understand that issues that we're responsible for out of our control, but we have to register that and for the auditors to understand.
We'd always been very clear in our performance measures that we did not count it where somebody else was demonstrably had caused the overflow, but they're now saying, no, you have to count it.
Seems doesn't really distressing. I've got a few hands up here, so I'm going to take a few questions. Maybe it's hopefully it's around this sort of measurement. So I'll start with Vanessa, Pauline, and then Fiona.
Through the chair, Hamish, does that accountability extend to the absorption of costs?
No, this is just how we count a dry weather overflow.
So we absorb those costs, or they can pass on to
so in this case where the sewer line was hit by using excavator, who actually knew the sewer line was there, he pays for it now, of course.
But I guess I guess it's from an audit perspective, it's more time for the auditors to be looking for these exceptions, and there will inevitably be some cost in the reporting component, which is
I don't think it places undue burden on us cost-wise to report on it. I mean, at the end of the day, we record these things anyway, so it's just a matter of how we categorise them. So that's fine. I don't think there's any great burden there. It's simply when we're reporting on these things, our view was we report what's in our control. So if, for example, we have a pump failure and that causes dry weather overflows, then that should be counted against us. But that's not the way the auditors now view the world. So we've made that change.
Okay, we're adapting to the rules. Thank you. Thanks, Vanessa. Pauline, and then Fiona.
Yeah, it does seem ludicrous because it's our performance measure. But if I recall rightly, we set these performance measures.
We do.
And we set them at quite a high bar because, that's how we roll. Is there a capacity to separate that into those caused by us, those caused by others? Is that?
So these are the performance measures framework is actually set by DIA. So
Right, so we can't just
on dry weather overflows, and it's audited by Audit New Zealand. And so we say we accept 1 or 2 or whatever dry weather overflows or 0 as the standard that we set for ourselves. Another council could say we accept 20.
Yeah.
So we all and then they measure us against that. But in the past, we would not count a strike by excavator that's not one of ours as a dry weather overflow.
So subsequent to that, because we set these performance measures and we do set them, we set a high bar for ourselves, which I'm really proud of. looking to the future, given that we are now going to be audited on the performance of external people, do you envisage that we might increase that number?
Potentially, we'll have to
5 or
see what the statistics tell us.
At the end of the.
My preference would be to set a target at 0, because I think we should always target to be 100%. And if we fail to meet 100%, we'll fail to meet 100%. But if we got to 99.9, that's pretty good. That didn't get 100, but wiser minds now, as included in the auditors, say you shouldn't set it to 100%. So I mean, it seems ridiculous to me that you set a target that doesn't say we're going to do our very best.
Yeah.
But now that we're looking at external performance.
Outside of our control.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, I mean, we set our own target, so we could set ours at 99%, somebody else could set theirs at 50%, and they'd get a green tick for getting 51, and we'd get a red cross for being at 98. So I mean, and so I'm really nervous that the government is actually talking about performance measures again. Because this is what a performance measures we've got do not tell the story about performance. Set yourself low targets and you're going to look good. That's what they do. So, you know, I mean, if we got 99.9% or better in everything, and everything was red, I'd still be a lot happier than setting everything at 50%, getting everything green.
Absolutely.
Yes. Perverse outcomes, isn't it?
Completely relative.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Pauline, for those questions. Fiona, I think.
Oh, yeah, I think most of it's probably been covered, but it is frustrating. It's almost like it's the performance of the system as opposed to our personal, our performance. So I don't know that we can protect the system against outside contractors unless that's what they're looking for us to do, to be able to prevent people doing that.
Yes, I guess that's what they're trying to drive, you know, and the question is how much money do you spend to stop people having the system?
How you would manage to do that. That's the only thing I could think of that would be any reason for that, is just to drive that sort of behaviour that will make us work harder to prevent it. But it is frustrating. It doesn't really indicate how our starts are going. So.
Got anything else you wanted to say as far as that goes? Okay, thank you. There's no further questions in regard to the report that we've just heard and read about. Is someone willing to move that we receive that information? All in agreement with that, please say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, that's carried, thank you. So that takes us through to the operations committee update. Ross and your team, is something there that you would just highlight for us as far as the operations committee meeting? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, this is hot off the press from last Tuesday. So I will just mention a few things regarding each of the items there, and worth noting in the customer services side, it was 7 compliments to 1 complaint. So you put that on your fridge, and it's always great to like that. On the Three Waters field, to highlight there that the Blythe Valley water upgrade has been completed and the boil water notice lifted. So that's off that scheme. On the roading, pre-seal repairs are continuing and focusing on stabilisation, dig outs and edge break repairs. So that's progressing well. This rain might I think they do wind down over the Christmas break anyway. Under recycling and waste services, I think this is something that we don't say enough about, but the contamination of recycling is supposed to be under 4%, but ours is 0.4%. That's the contamination rate of our recycling at home. And I think that is just amazing. And you hear people go off at, these clear plastic bags, but when you sit down and explain it to people, the result, the contamination rate you get because of that, and that the bag itself is actually recycled. They go, oh, I didn't know that. And so I think that should be on the main news, the long program. And the building, actually, Kerry's here. Any questions we can forward to Kerry? So of note there, the tiny home determination is still with the MBIE. I think it's still with the MBIE. So we're waiting for that. And this is happening all over New Zealand. And yeah, the sooner it can be sorted out, what is a tiny home, what isn't, the better for everybody. And the property, Spotswood Hall and Gore Bay kitchen, Camp kitchen have been re-roofed and they look pretty slick. There's photos if you want to have a look at them in the report. There are amenities, mowing audits, and yeah, it's an annual thing that I sort of struggle with that Delta struggles to keep up when we have rapid grass growth. Well, hello, spring is rapid grass growth. So get your stuff sorted, and yeah, you've got the contract. It's always going to have spring growth. Some slightly more than others, and it does carry on potentially if we get rain like this. There'll be another reverse, but that's what you're in the job of doing. Sort it out. I get a wee bit frustrated with that. And under the program and capital, just a few notes here. There's got construction of a new playground in the Port Dawson Reserve in Hammer Springs. I actually haven't been to that reserve, but it's obviously a new playground in that reserve, which would be worth looking at. So if you're in Hammer, kind of wander around that one. And a special note under the Operations Committee action sheet, at the end of the year, we have a clean sheet, empty.
Well done.
So that is the operations report for the year.
Awesome. Thank you, Ross. That's a very thorough report and much appreciated by your peers. Is there any questions for Ross? Thank you, Vanessa.
Chair, Ross, playground you were talking about, was that the sensory playground that I read about, the one?
Is it sensory? It just looks like a normal playground.
I think it was listed under the sensory playground picture.
Okay.
Seems
Thank you for answering that.
quite progressive. I must go and have a look. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thanks.
Thank you.
No further questions. Ross, would you like to move the adoption of?
I'll move the adoption of this report.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Gary. All in agreement, that please say aye. Aye. Great, that's carried. And Fiona takes you the audit and risk committee on behalf of your colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, look, this is mainly the health and safety. I think it speaks for itself. The one thing I think that we did discuss, we have come up with a graph that we're building over time to see trends. And for the council itself, it seems to be trending up, but when we looked into it further, it was that we were getting increased reporting, near misses and a whole host of other things. So they're working on that culture of including everything. So over time, I'm sure we'll see, you sort out the serious minors and those types of things, but it's good to see that there's an attitude of reporting everything to see what things you can do something about, not something about. So I think that's good progress. Probably all of this. Well, the only other thing I would say is that as usual with the pools, I see their data's trending down generally, so they work really hard and have dealing with things like that.
Right. Any question, Robbie?
Yes, but concerning under the health and safety, I see there's been 2 instances of fibre optic damage. Which one of our sidewalls has been injured? I don't understand that.
I think so.
Why that's under.
So our report's an incident report, and we've had 2 incidents where our operators have damaged fibre optic cables. Now, it's not specifically a health and safety incident. but it is an incident. We try to encourage people to report everything, because sometimes people don't recognise that there's actually a health and safety risk in some things that go on. So we're trying to encourage a wider range of reporting. So for example, if we have vehicle damage, nobody's necessarily hurt. So do you have to report it? Well, yes, it's an incident, so you have to report it. You know, a near miss, I mean, if it had been an electrical cable that they had a hit, rather than the fibre optic cable, then that might have been a completely different outcome. So is it a near miss? They didn't hit the electrical cable, but if there had been an electrical cable in that area that they hadn't found. So, you know, I think that it's a reasonable use of the system. What we're trying to do is find out where we have incidents, how we can reduce the incidents.
No, that's all good. I might leave that.
Okay. Got a full and thorough answer to your question. Thank you, Robbie. So with that, are you happy to move?
Happy to move, yes.
Second, thank you, Karen. All in agreement that receipt of that information, please say aye. Aye. Those against, that's carried. Thank you. Councillors, that does bring us to the end of our open agenda for today. We have got items in the public excluded section. I'm making an assumption that you've all read those and you'll agree that they meet the threshold of public exclusion. And so if that being the case, actually I just need, no, just before I ask for your acceptance of that, I've had a text.
Dave, stop.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so Dave, the question was, does the item 8.2 in regard to the sale of the house meet the threshold of public exclusion? So I'm going to ask you to respond to that, given this is your paper, or you and Kerry, and to help us be certain about the test or the hierarchy for the public excluded nature of that paper. If you can answer that, then I'll ask for support to go into public excluded. Thank you.
So there's some matters of commercial sensitivity included in that paper. So it's a public excluded.
Council is comfortable that it meets that threshold, and if that being the case, I'm asking you to support, and we'll move in a seconder to go into public excluded. Vanessa, do I have a seconder to support Vanessa, that we move into public excluded? Thank you, Fiona, for that. All in agreement to that, please say aye. Aye. Those against? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Robbie. You've done the paperwork for us, so well done. Oh, sorry, you read it a minute. Always takes time, doesn't it? That's amazing. Thanks. Thank you, Graham. Look, I just wanted to make a couple of closing comments as we finish the year of 2024 as a council group. You know, we have had a really busy year, and I just tried to have a wee brainstorm with myself of some of the major decisions, I guess, and some not so major decisions that we have deliberated on, debated and considered on behalf of our district. And, you know, we've progressed the Stanton Road, you know, looking at, and we've got visions of a wetland and all the opportunity that does, you know, sit in front of us with that. You know, we've heard on many occasions the issues around Golf Links Road. I mean, that was a big, huge debate for our council. We're not there yet, but we're progressing down a pathway for that. You know, Maswells Road, we listened to our community and we have considered, not there yet, but we've taken into account the desires of many people, some people within our district. You know, but when we think about the projects in regard to water, I think that this council needs to be really proud of what they've done. You know, the Kuranui #1 has been commissioned. We've lifted those boil water notices in the Blythe, the Wire rural treatment. But always being on that continuous path of improvement is something that you will need to acknowledge as a group that has actually been part of and involved with the decision making around that does bring benefit to our communities. You know, and I just thought about the Return Services Memorial that is actually currently being built in Culverden Township. Whilst we as a council never had a huge input into that, our staff, particularly Vanessa, helped that community to furnish a really good application and receive some funding, and they're going to have a magnificent memorial that, you know, kind of reflects our history, but enables that to be kept in front of us for our future. And I thought about the local input now and the growth and development of the Birdsong project in Scargill. You know, there's so many things that have happened that we're part of that decision, we're part of that journey, but you know, now it's you know, it's just going to be something significant, something major for our district. I thought about the work that's been done in Hardin Waikato around the falls. You know, that's a big body of work, and Cheviot have had those same discussions, but you know, just the sense of belonging is really, really important for our communities, and you know, we've kind of been part of that, but you know, and supporting it as well. So there's a lot that we have done as a council. We haven't always agreed. It's hard, you know, that's not why we're here. We're actually here to challenge each other's thinking and to get to a result that actually ensures that we have a district that is strong and resilient and robust, and that shared prosperity is for everybody that lives in our district. Sorry, I've got my scribbles here. We've celebrated and supported many of our people with our communities, and I think that needs to be acknowledged at this time of the year, that for the main part that's been done because we've got hardworking, committed and dedicated staff. Without those people bringing us reports that are balanced, that give us a full suite of information and help us to make that decision, I think that now's the time that we acknowledge our staff and you know, show gratitude for what they do. They don't all live in our district, but I think that they actually do have a real sense of that they want to be in touch and be certain that our district continues to be flourishing. So yeah, I just wanted to finish with that, because I think if Christmas, whatever Christmas means to you, I'm trying really hard not to do this, but you know, it's kind of me. Whatever Christmas means to you, I think it's a chance that we take some time, recharge our batteries and come back with a shared vision for, you know, strength and prosperity for 2025. So thank you. And with that, I think that Hamish tries to get away with this, but he does celebrate birthday in the new year. So I will share with that as well. Thank you. So with that, I hope you all have a wonderful holiday break. I do hope that our emergency officers aren't called on for any civil defence work through the holiday break.
Your emergency officer.
Oh, okay, that'll do, we'll take that. And I hope that our volunteers in our community are not overburdened by a huge amount of workload, because they have to have some time with their families as well. So with that, I will close the meeting and wish you all a very peaceful and happy Christmas. Thank you.